The woman joyfully dancing in front of her students in this clip is 47-year-old Fiona Beale, a primary school teacher at Eastfield Academy in Northampton. Fiona was well loved by her students, admired for her dedication and commitment to ensuring that every moment in her classroom was meaningful. What no one in this video could have predicted, however, is that just a few months later, Fiona's name would be making headlines across the nation. Today, we'll delve into events that unfolded in England in 2021. There isn't much information available about Fiona Beale's early life, but those who knew her described her as a kind and friendly woman who loved her job and was deeply appreciated by her students. Fiona lived in Northampton, about 60 miles northwest of London, with her partner, 42-year-old Nick Billingham. Northampton, one of England's largest towns, had a population of nearly 250,000, according to the 2021 census. Fiona and Nick resided on Moore Street, a quiet area where the shocking events we'll discuss today took place. The couple had been together for 17 years, experiencing their share of ups and downs like most relationships. While details about their relationship remain scarce, especially as the case was only resolved a few weeks ago, some insights have emerged. Leslie, a mutual acquaintance, shared her impressions of the couple. "I thought she was really nice," Leslie recalled. "They weren't overly affectionate or holding hands, but they seemed happy enough. Nick brought her around for tea once, and she was polite and chatty. Nick, though, was a bit of a ladies' man and enjoyed female attention, so you could never be sure how long his relationships would last." Their relationship came to a sudden end in November 2021, coinciding with both contracting a widespread virus. On November 1st, Fiona informed her family that she and Nick had tested positive and were isolating at home for 10 days as required. However, just a day later, Fiona texted her sister with startling news. Nick had broken up with her and left, apparently with another woman. In early November 2021, following Nick Billingham's breakup with Fiona Beale, he remained in contact with his friends and family. He texted his mother, claiming he had left with a woman named Faye and was happy in his new life. Meanwhile, Fiona stayed at home for the 10-day isolation period as they had both contracted the virus. Once she recovered, she returned to work, where her colleagues offered words of support after hearing about the breakup. However, the end of her relationship with Nick deeply affected her, and the emotional toll was noticeable to those around her. By late February 2022, nearly 4 months after the breakup, Fiona's mental health began to unravel. Unable to cope with the constant reminders of Nick in their shared home, she relocated to Cumbria, around 200 miles from Northampton. On March 15, 2022, Fiona sent concerning messages to her family, prompting them to call the police. Officers conducting a welfare check found Fiona seriously injured in a bath at a lodge she had rented in the Lake District. Constable Josh Parkin, giving evidence in court, described the unsettling scene. He recalled that sinister music was playing from her mobile phone, and at first, he believed she was deceased. "I saw a female lying naked in the bath," Parkin stated. "There appeared to be bodily fluids in the water, leading me to think she had passed away." Acoustic music, which I can only describe as sinister, was playing from a phone beside her. "I immediately called for an ambulance and suggested we get her out of the bath to perform CPR. Fiona eventually regained consciousness after Parkin pulled on her ear to elicit a pain response. She moaned, turned slightly, and then began to show signs of emotion as they sat her up. During their search, officers found a blue leather-bound notebook, which appeared to document Fiona's mental state. Parkin noted that the notebook's paper matched a farewell note Fiona had left. "On a quick glance," he said, "the last page referenced vomiting and defecating. It seemed like an extension of her farewell message." Fiona also left her bank card and a note for the lodge owner, which included her PIN, suggesting she had no plans to continue her life. After Fiona was rushed to the hospital by ambulance, the police began a closer examination of her notebook while doctors treated her. What they uncovered in its pages was deeply troubling. The notes appeared to describe Fiona confessing to a killing. Though initially, Constable Lawson dismissed them as incoherent ramblings, attributing them to a mental health crisis. "I believed these comments to be delusional fantasies," Lawson stated. "At that stage, I did not believe someone had actually been killed." Constable Roy Williams, another officer on the case, echoed this sentiment but acknowledged the disturbing nature of the entries. He said, "The content was unsettling. Fiona mentioned her long-term partner wasn't a nice man and claimed she had killed him. Because of the notebook's content, we couldn't ignore it. The entries painted a chilling picture of Fiona's deteriorating mental health and the events leading up to the crime. One section read, "Asterisk, everything changed last year. You be sweet to them, especially your wife. My husband wasn't sweet to me. I suppose I ought to explain how I got to this point. My mental health had been deteriorating. Whenever he cheated, he'd escalate the belittling, moaning, and criticizing. I have to confess. Okay, here goes. In October 2021, he spat on me and threatened me during intimate contact. I thought about leaving, but his words and actions fueled my dark side. I called her Tulip 22. Reckless, fearless, efficient, ruthless. Asterisk. The notebook revealed a methodical, chilling plan. Fiona wrote about reaching her breaking point during Halloween 2021. That night I planned. The pandemic rules gave me a guaranteed 10-day isolation period due to positive symptoms. On Monday, I called the school administration to say we had tested positive. He went to work while Tulip 22 smoked and plotted. I'd rehearsed it mentally so many times. She described preparing the bath, encouraging Nick to relax with the promise of intimacy afterward, and hiding a knife in her dressing gown pocket. The note continued. I brought a chisel, bin bags, and cable ties upstairs. I even got him to wear an eye mask before stabbing him. In another entry, Fiona expressed conflicted feelings and remorse. Asterisk, still, my actions haunt me. I sometimes have to catch myself, remember what I did, and recall my cover story, neither of which feels convincing. Hiding a body was worse than I thought. Moving one is much harder than it looks on TV. I regret what I did. Of course, I'm not a monster, but it had been building up for so long. Asterisk. She lamented not leaving Nick or standing up for herself earlier, writing. Perhaps most hauntingly, Fiona noted that Nick had asked why after she stabbed him. She concluded with a grim observation. The funny thing is, he was such an unlikable person that I only had to send a few texts, and no one seemed bothered. I don't think anyone would have looked for him. Nick Billingham disappeared on November 1, 2021, and from that point on, he only communicated with friends and family via text messages. The day after police read Fiona Beale's disturbing notebook entries, they searched the Missouri Street house where she and Nick had lived. Initially, nothing seemed amiss. However, when officers returned the following day, they uncovered troubling evidence in the cellar. They found a mattress that, when moved, revealed heavy bloodstains. On March 19th, police conducted a more thorough investigation and discovered additional evidence. Forensic teams, aided by a cadaver dog, unearthed a body buried in the rear garden. Nick's remains were wrapped in a carpet and concealed beneath bark chippings, soil, wooden sheeting, concrete blocks, bricks, and planks. The burial site also included plastic bags, rubble, mortar, polyene, laminate flooring, fabric, and vinyl sections. The body was hidden within a built structure. A sleep mask with the phrase, "This is my morning after" face, printed on the inside covered Nick's eyes. A police spokesperson condemned the treatment of Nick's body, saying the way he was wrapped with cables, hose pipes, and plastic bags among building debris afforded him no dignity in death. It shows utter contempt. A post-mortem conducted the day after the discovery determined that Nick had died from a single stab wound to the right side of his neck. The wound had severed his jugular vein and damaged his esophagus and trachea. The force required to inflict the wound was described as moderate, though severe force could not be ruled out. On March 22, 2022, Fiona Beale was arrested and charged with Nick Billingham's murder. His family was devastated upon learning the truth. They were horrified to discover that Fiona had used Nick's phone to text them and his friends after his death. Nick's mother shared one of these messages with journalists. In a public statement, Nick's family said, "Nick has been taken from us far too early and will always be in our hearts. We've been overwhelmed by the kind support and comforting words from so many wonderful people. Nick will be deeply missed by his friends, family, and loved ones. Our hearts ache for Nick. He was a beautiful little boy, and we cherish the memories of him growing up. We are so proud of the man he became." The shocking revelation of Fiona Beale's dark side left her colleagues and the parents of her students reeling. The administration of the school where Fiona worked released a statement expressing their disbelief. "We were shocked and saddened to learn that one of our teaching staff has been charged with a serious offense and is now in custody. This news will have a profound impact on our community, especially the children. We will do everything possible to support pupils and staff as we navigate this challenging time. This tragedy shakes our school community to its core, and we must come together to support and be kind to one another. As the investigation progressed, police determined that Nick had died on November 1, 2021. Fiona spent the following days attempting to conceal her crime. She had meticulously planned everything, knowing that claiming a positive COVID-19 test would give her a 10-day isolation period without interference. Authorities believe Fiona fabricated her test results to submit them through an online application. There is no evidence that she ever actually took the test. Furthermore, her activities during those 10 days were inconsistent with the severe symptoms she claimed to have experienced. After committing the murder, Fiona began the grueling process of cleaning up the crime scene, using the time she had carefully orchestrated to cover her tracks. By 1:07 a.m. on November 2nd, Fiona Beale, using her deceased partner's Amazon account and her own, began ordering items to clean and conceal the crime. These included cleaning supplies for Venetian blinds, a new mop and bucket, ultra-heavy-duty bin bags, a new mattress, bedding, clothing, wall art, and mirrors. Later that same day, she updated a Tesco order to include multiple cleaning products and added 3 rolls of duct tape. At 2:19 p.m., she purchased heavy-duty long gardening gloves, a stainless steel digging spade, and a galvanized incinerator bin designed for garden waste. She also made subsequent purchases of materials for body disposal while indulging herself with chocolates, scented candles, toiletries, soft furnishings, and clothing. Almost 2 weeks after killing Nick Billingham, Fiona was captured on supermarket CCTV. On November 13th, buying various building materials later used to construct his grave, the footage was released by police as part of the investigation. As mentioned earlier, Fiona impersonated Nick for months by sending text messages to his family and friends. She even invited his mother, Miss Valentine, to her home for a Christmas drink on December 23, 2021, while Nick's body lay buried in the garden. In her victim impact statement, Miss Valentine addressed Fiona, saying, "You rearranged the furniture to obscure the view of the garden."
Why?
"To hide where you buried my son. You sat in your front room chatting with me, sharing a Christmas drink, all the while knowing you had killed my son and buried him just feet away." Despite her crime, Fiona carried on with her work and personal life as if nothing had happened. She displayed no signs of depression or trauma, and evidence suggested she was instead enjoying what she described in a deleted file as a new life. It appeared that after killing a partner she disliked and suspected of infidelity, she was relishing her newfound freedom. During the trial, Fiona initially denied her guilt, later claiming the crime was involuntary. However, the prosecution painted a different picture. The prosecutor alleged that Nick had been unfaithful to Fiona multiple times during their 17-year relationship and had even fathered a child with another woman. Despite these betrayals, Fiona accepted him back repeatedly. The prosecution argued that instead of leaving Nick, Fiona meticulously planned his murder, deciding when and how to kill him, where to hide his body, and how to explain both his disappearance and her absence from work. In contrast, Fiona's defense attorney, Andrew Wheeler, presented a different narrative. In his opening statement, he argued that Fiona had long struggled with mental health issues due to Nick's coercive behavior. Wheeler told the jury, "We submit that this case is not as straightforward as the prosecution suggests." He further argued that Beale had struggled with her mental health over the years and alleged that Billingham was psychologically domineering, gradually wearing her down. "We submit that she was worn down until she was quite literally broken," Wheeler stated. Beale herself claimed she couldn't recall many details of the act, though she continued working as if nothing had happened, even joining a school trip to London. However, weeks later, Beale began frequently messaging her head teacher to say she was unwell. In March, her head teacher grew concerned and contacted Beale's mother, who said Fiona had mentioned going on a school residential trip. The head teacher then reported her missing to the police. Officers traced her to a rented lodge near Kendal, where Beale assured them she simply needed peace and quiet and did not want her family informed of her location. 3 days later, she sent her family a troubling message, "I'm so sorry. I love you all very much." Ultimately, Beale changed her plea and admitted her guilt during the trial at Northampton Crown Court. She spoke about her struggles and her relationship with Billingham, claiming he had thrown dinner plates against walls on 2 occasions and made cleaning a constant source of tension, even criticizing how items were placed in cupboards. Beale alleged that his behavior eroded her confidence over the years, describing how what began as jokes turned into cutting remarks and nastiness. She further admitted that before the killing, she told Billingham she would kill him to prevent him from treating another woman the way he had treated her. The prosecutor, however, argued that Beale's actions were premeditated, highlighting how she used Billingham's money to purchase items to clean and conceal the crime, including materials to bury him. The court also heard Beale's chilling words in her notebook, where she tried to justify her actions, writing, "I'm not a total monster." Nick Billingham's family, devastated by his loss, expressed their grief and anger. His mother recalled how Beale had invited her for a Christmas drink while Nick was buried just feet away. "How could you hate someone so much to do what she did?" she said, adding that Nick's children would never have the chance to see their father again or share life's milestones with him. The judge sentenced Beale to a minimum term of 20 years in prison, taking into account aggravating factors but adjusting for her guilty plea. Addressing her in court, he said, "Your actions and deceit were driven entirely by self-preservation. You used his money to cover up your crime and showed no remorse." Nick's last reported word was, "Why?" as Beale stabbed him in the neck, a tragic question that still haunts those who knew and loved him.